Good morning all. Today's topic of discussion is application specific integrated circuits part 3. Objective of this lecture is to make the students familiarize with floor plan preparation in ASIC design process. So what is floor plan? A town planner works out the number, types and sizes of building in a development project. An architect designs each building including the arrangement of the rooms in each building, and then the builder carries out the construction according to the architect's drawing. The electrical wiring is one of the last steps in the construction of each building. The physical design of ASIC is normally divided into the similar different steps. The first step is system partitioning, next is floor planning, then placement and routing. A microelectronic system is a town and ASICs are the buildings. The system partitioning corresponds to town planning and the ASIC floor planning is the architect's job. The job is done by the builder and the routing is done by the electrician. So we shall design most but not all ASICs using these design steps. So floor planning is one of the important steps in constructing the ASICs. So layout design is done at the chip level, that is defining the layout hierarchy, estimation of required design area, and then a blueprint showing the placement of major components in the design that is consisting of the non-standard cell is prepared, which contains the input outputs, RAMs and ROMs, reusable intellectual property micros. So which are the different approaches to this floor planning? It may be automatic or a manual approach. So it is constructive, iterative and knowledge based. So in the floor planning process, the different blocks in the design will be placed in the available chip area, and then the channels or spaces will be kept between the different blocks for routing purpose, that is the interconnections. And by considering the density of interconnects in a particular area and the ease of interconnection and minimum path length, these block placements are changed iteratively till the satisfaction is obtained. In case of satisfaction means the performance level, the required performance level is achieved with minimum path delay, minimum number of interconnections, avoiding the congestion in between the different blocks. So these aspects are considered and accordingly the constructive, iterative and knowledge based process of floor planning is completed. So in this process, this design must be floor planned before the P and R. This P and R is nothing but the place and route. The CAD tools are used for preparing the floor plans because it is an iterative process. So manually placing the blocks, checking the interconnections, it will be very time consuming and a tedious job. So these CAD tools, they perform the different steps of system partitioning, floor planning, placement, global routing and then the detailed routing. So in this floor plan, the core area is defined with a large macros placed. So whatever number of large blocks are present in the design, those blocks will be placed at the center. At the periphery, that the periphery area is defined with the IO macros placed. So IOs will be placed at the periphery, and then the last is the power and ground grid. The rings and straps are established and the power and ground grid is prepared. So utilization of available chip area is the important consideration while preparing the floor plan. The percentage of the core that is used by placed standard cells and macros, that is nothing but the utilization. So whether the available chip area is fully utilized or not, that is checked while placing the different blocks. For this floor planning, the different algorithms are available, and using those algorithms, the floor plans are prepared. The input to this floor planning step is output of the system partitioning and design entry, a netlist. So floor planning precedes placement, but we shall cover them together. So in the next video we will be covering this routing, but in this video we will be doing this floor planning and placement thing. So at the start of this floor planning, we have a netlist which describes the circuit blocks and the logic cells within the blocks and their connections. So while preparing these floor plans, which are the different rules, those will be followed. So before proceeding further, first we will see which are the goals of this floor planning. The goals are: arrange the blocks on a chip, decide the location of the IO pads, decide location and number of power pads, decide the type of power distribution, and decide the location and type of clock distribution. So we have the different blocks while preparing the floor plan, such as RAM, ROM, ALU, cache controller, and then within the blocks also there will be different logic cells and the connectors to interconnect those logic cells. So a netlist is a input to this floor plan. So netlist is a logical description of ASIC and the floor plan is a physical description of the ASIC. So floor planning is thus mapping between the logical description, that is the netlist, and the physical description, that is the floor plan. So for preparing that, the different rules are used, that is it is caused by the manufacturing limits, that is the lithography, etching. So which are these rules? So spacing, width, notch between the same net. So when the nets will be prepared, these are the rules that we have to follow. So some structures have the rules, that is must have exactly a fixed size. Like the example is contacts and vias. So for contacts and vias, a particular size is must. Then the larger structures must be replaced with the repetition or a mosaic type of structure, which is shown in the blue color over here. Then about the different layers, the width and spacing, some certain rules are there, and while preparing the layout also, how the notch should be there. Like here in green color it is shown, this is the notch, and if it is designed in this way, that is not allowed. Then rules in one layer, that is the wide structure. Spacing rules often apply for large, that is wide structures, and for instance the gate spacing for the gate should be greater than L minimum of different or the larger size gates. Metal spacing for the metal, it is wider, it is W minimum, and that can be different. Via overlap can be more for the wide metal. So how to find the wide metal? Can cause geom size function which expand or shrink the shape. So we can see the different layout over here. And for such wide structures, the shape should be less than 6 unit. There are also some maximum rules, that is manufacturing of large continuous regions can lead to stress or cracks. So the definition of size limitation, number of squares of 10 by 10 micrometer square may fit on the metal. And the wide metal must be slotted or the holes, with the help of holes. So this can be by chopping out metal or by adding shapes on the metal slot layer, and these can be copied. Objects on that layer will later be subtracted. So such large metals should be avoided, so we can put slots. So slot should not cut but the slot should be put in such a way that it should not cut the current flow. Then the rules between the layers, caused by alignment precision of different mask. For example, here we have a diffusion and then a polysilicon, that is the gate. So the diffusion is making the drain and source regions, and over which we have a gate, and we have a shifted poly layer like this, which is short between drain and source. So because of this shifting of polysilicon layer, there is a direct connection between this drain and source. Then for the N-well structure also, there is a particular rule to be followed. On all the sides of this N-well, we should keep certain distance. Then the overlap required on drain and source diodes. So consider the contacts of drain and source, and we can see that this diffusion and this SiO2 layer, we have a contact mask which is shown with the help of pink color, and this contact mask is misaligned. So that will make the short circuit between the drain or source and the substrate. The solution is contact hole must be smaller than the active. So whatever N plus diffusion we have, so this should be having the size smaller than the active area. Then another problem may be due to the shifted vias. So vias are nothing but the plated through holes which make the connection between the different metal layers on the chip. So via or contact can in principle be shifted and there is still contact. For example, if you see the cross section over here, this is the via which is used to interconnect metal X and metal X plus 1. So if this metal is shifted, then still there is a contact. So therefore the rule for contact can be aggressive or complicated. Metal must extend via on at least two opposite sides, and this is often allowed like this. If this is the via which is shown with the dark blue color and this is the sky blue color which is nothing but your metal. So if it is extended on both the sides then it is allowed, but this is not allowed. Then the butted contact. We often need for NMOS a P plus substrate contact close to a N plus source and both are connected. So this is a source and this is a substrate contact. Sometimes it is allowed to overlap N plus and P plus for more compact design, and this is called as the butted contact, in which you can see that N plus and P plus they are shorted or they are just near to each other, and then the contact is overlapped on both. The same contact is overlapped on both. So this is also allowed. That is called as a butted contact. Then the special stuff area fill. The total coverage area on most layers must be within certain limit, and this guarantees the homogeneous production. So this rule can be global or local, that is it must be fulfilled in each area of 100 by 100 micrometer square. If the design has too few structures, extra dummy structure must be filled in, and this can be done by strips by the user or by the fabricator. To avoid the filling, that is photodiode, there are no fill layers. Then the next is the special stuff, that is antenna. So some process step can deposit static charge on the structures, and the amount of charge can depend on the area or the periphery. The charge Q leads to the voltage Q by C, which can destroy the transistor gates, and the most dangerous for large structure and small gates. The ratio is calculated for each gate. If it exceeds a value, there is a danger for the antenna error or the antenna effect. So how the antenna errors are eliminated? If a drain of a MOS is connected directly, the drain diode has enough leakage to discharge the gate, and often the driver is connected through higher metal and is not seen in the early process steps. Next, an explicit tie-down diode is added to avoid this antenna effect, and the signals are fed through higher metals so that the driving gate is seen when the metal connects. So this is the example in which we can see the antenna effect. We have the antenna gate over here, and we are giving the protection by this driver by adding the diode. Then we have this one more antenna structure over here, and this second metal 2 antenna comes over here again. So this type of design is a very bad design. So the charge will be stored on this metal and it will start radiating, which will increase the crosstalk and that type of effect. So to minimize that, we can tie down that somewhere so that it will get discharged, and then this antenna effect, that is radiating effect, will be minimized. So this particular bridge is used to upper layers reduce the antenna size at gate end. So instead of having a continuous metal for a long period, it is cut and then such a type of bridge is prepared so that the antenna size is reduced at the gate. So you can see here also, this is the antenna because of this large length of the metal. So the charge will get developed over here and to start acting like an antenna, it will start radiating. So we can prepare the bridge to reduce this length of the metal. So the special stuff hot wells, most N well are connected to the positive supply. That is, the shorts between such well are no problem, and best merge wells in the layout. So we can see that we can have these are the two N wells which are shown in the first picture, and we can combine these. Sometimes N wells are on different potential, the analog design like source follower, and these well may not be merged into the larger as the larger distance is required. So we can merge the first two because the spacing between the two is very small, but if the spacing requirement is larger one, we cannot merge the N wells. So these well may not be merged because larger distance is required, and such wells are called the hot wells. And there are sometimes symbolic layer to tell the tool explicitly that a well is hot and that more severe rules must be applied to that particular N well structure. Then about the IO placement and the chip package requirement. So we have a core area of a chip in which the whole design is to be planned, floor planned, and with the help of the bonding wires, so you can just see the bonding wires over here. With the help of these bonding wires, this inside core is connected to the outside IO pins of the chip. So this is a quad package which have the IO pins on the periphery on all the four sides. So while preparing the bond wires, the requirement is there should be no crossing, then the minimum spacing, maximum angle and maximum length. So if we'll just see the first part, the wire crossing over the bond finger violation. So you can see this wire is crossing, and that is crossing some finger of the IO pin. The pad can be moved to clear the violation. So we can just shift the position so that this violation can be avoided. So guidelines for this good floor plan should be used. So all these factors are considered while doing the floor planning, which just now we have seen. So which are the important guidelines? A few quick iterations of place and route with the timing checks may reveal the need of a different floor plan. So as we discussed, the blocks will be placed in the available chip area, and then the quick place and routing will be checked. Timings will also be checked, and accordingly again the blocks can be reshuffled. So it is an iterative process. So while preparing the floor plan, some guidelines should be followed so that minimum iterations will be required to achieve the satisfaction. Single large partition, then no four-way intersections, ramps out of the way in the corner, large routing channels, and the pins always from corners. So these are few guidelines for preparing the good floor plans. That ramp should be always placed in the corner. The large routing channels should be kept so that the congestion should be avoided while doing the interconnection between the different blocks, and the pins should be away from the corner. So near the corner, pins should not be there because routing becomes a problem or a headache if it is placed near the corner. And no four-way intersection should be there, otherwise there will be so many connections crossing each other. And as far as possible, try to keep the block size as large as possible so that the interconnections between the different blocks will be minimized. Then defining the power or ground grid and blockages is the next step. So the purpose of grid is to take the VDD and VSS received from the IO area and distribute it over the core area. So as this VDD and VSS lines are to be spreaded throughout the chip area, there should be some grid arrangement with the help of which we can distribute the VDD and VSS throughout. The blockages can also be added in the floor plan to prohibit standard cell from being placed in those areas. So we can restrict the area, particular chip area for a particular purpose. And then we have to consider the timing constraints also while doing the placement. The CAD tool optimizes, places and routes the logic gates to meet all the timing constraints. So we have to place the design and we have to check the path length, the path delay. So here you can see in this diagram that the cell upsized for the optimal drive or speed. So based on the fan out requirement, fan in requirement, again the design will be reshuffled. The logic moved closer together for the shorter nets. The path delay are also considered, the timing delays and all. So to minimize the path delay, the designs can be moved closer so that the net length will be short and the delay can be minimized. So the placement is timing driven also. The another set of input to this floor planning tool is the timing constraints. So the CAD tool needs constraints to understand the timing intentions, arrival time of input, required arrival time at the output and the clock period. So constraints come from the logic synthesis tool, SDC, that is the Synopsys Design Constraint Format. For a particular CAD tool, that is the Synopsys tool, this SDC is the one constraint file which contains the whole information regarding the timing constraints. Then the cell and net delays, those will also be considered. So cell delay is a function of input transition time. The net time CNet and Cpin. And this net delay is a function of the Rnet, that is the resistance of the network path, then the capacitance of the network path, and Cpin is the capacitance of the pin, that is the input. So CAD tool calculates the delay for every cell and every net. To calculate the delay, CAD tool needs to know the resistance and capacitance of each net. So it uses the geometry of net and the lookup table to estimate the resistances and capacitances. Then the timing sanity check is done. So prior to the placement, the CAD tool can check the design timing constraints for the feasibility. The process is called zero interconnect check. The CAD tool performs timing analysis based upon design constraints, that is the SDC file, and the cell delay only, while ignoring the RC delay, that is the path delay is not considered. Only the cell delay will be considered, the actual propagation delay through the particular circuit element. If major timing violations exist, the problem will probably get worse with the added RC delay. So the routes will also add some delay, that is called as the propagation delay. So zero interconnect check saves the time and resources. So as discussed earlier, the placement is timing driven. So timing driven placement places critical path cell close together to reduce the net RC. So for the whole chip, the path lengths are calculated. The longest path length and the critical path length, they will be again reconsidered, and those cells will be placed near to each other to reduce the path delay. So prior to routing, RC are based on the virtual routes, and what if critical path do not meet the timing constraint with the placement. So again we have to reshuffle their positions and we have to minimize the path length. So logic optimization is another feature. So these optimizations can be done during the pre-place, in-place or the post-place stages of the placement. Each optimization can be done separately or all done concurrently during the placement. So like for each and every inside logic also, the thought will be given by the CAD tool, and if possible, like here the gate duplication is there, so which can be avoided, or some buffers can be inserted, or to obtain the high fan out net, that is HFN net will be synthesized by adding some buffers. So likewise the different steps will be taken for the logic optimization also. Then about the clock tree synthesis. All the clock pins are driven by a single clock source. Large delay and transition time due to the length of the net, they will be considered, and clock signal reach some registers before the others. So that is called as the skew. So if the clock signal is reaching at different times, then those delays should be equalized. So that is called as the clock tree synthesis. In that case, the path delays will be equalized so that the clock will reach at the same time to all the memory elements. So these are some of the clock tree topologies in which it is tried to keep the path delay equal in each corner of the chip. So the first structure is the H tree. So if you start from the middle of this and go to any corner of the chip, the path length which will be traveled, that is equalized. So clock source is connected to the center of the network, and the networks are distributed in a H or X shape until the clock pin of register is driven by a local buffer. So H tree and X tree topologies solve the single clock pin problem. So what after the clock tree synthesis? The clock or the buffer tree is built to balance the output loads and minimize the clock skew, and a delay line can be added to the network to meet the minimum insertion delay, that is called as the clock balancing. the gated clock tree synthesis is used. The clock may not be generated directly from the I/O, and power saving techniques such as clock gating are used to turn off the clock to sections of the design. Like here, for example, this particular section will be working only when the gated or gate signal is applied over here. Gate signal will be applied when we want to keep this particular cell functional. Rest of the time, if gate signal is not appearing, then clock signal will not be applied to the flip-flop and the power consumption can be reduced. So CAD tool can interpret the gated clocks and can build the clock trees through the logic to the registers. So what will be the effect of this clock tree synthesis? Several, that is hundreds or thousands of clock buffers are added to the design. The placement and routing congestion may increase due to that, and non-clock cell may have been moved to less ideal locations, and the timing violations can be introduced because of that. So this is the disadvantage of this CTS. Thank you.